successful recovery can look like. Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden.
Guess what time it is, Doc? Guess what time it is?
3:13.
It's time for another episode of We Do Recover.
You were not being literal about the time. I'm way too literal. It is time for another episode of We Do Recover with Jared Miller.
Friday afternoons, baby. Hopefully you guys Friday is my favorite day.
Huh,
So
that's a new part of our podcast. We're going to sing to you guys every week.
we're 30 seconds in. We're already sideways in this thing. Episode
Yeah.
85 is underway. For episode 85, it's going to be all about Cassi Barreras. She's come on. She's our guest. She's going to come on to share her journey from active addiction into a life of recovery. I'm super excited for this one.
Yeah,
What about
this'll
you,
be
Doc?
fun. Yeah, this will be fun.
Before we get to her, though, Cassi, how are you doing today?
Good.
Good.
Thanks
I
for
just
having
wanted
me.
the listeners to know that you were actually here.
I'm actually here.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
Cassie's here. We got a few housekeeping items first, and then we'll get to Cassie's beautiful story.
Yeah, let's get to those. So, episode 85, part 1, is brought to us by our lovely sponsors, Steps Recovery Centers. Steps Recovery Center is ready to help you or a loved one get help as soon as you're ready to reach out. How you reach out to them is by giving them a call at 801-800-8142, or you can go to their website. That's stepsrc.com. You can live chat with somebody. Again, they're a pretty amazing program. They have you from start to finish. They have detox, inpatient, outpatient, aftercare. So be sure to reach out, get a hold of them. We love Steps. Thank you for sponsoring this podcast.
Yep, Steps is good to us,
Sweet.
and we love them.
It's been a minute since you've been in the studio, Doc.
A couple of weeks.
I don't think
is all,
Cassie.
I think.
I don't think Cassie knows about our new and goods. You wanna
Well,
ask her what's
we're
new
about
and
to
good?
introduce her. I don't think we usually start off with the guest, though, because that's
You're right.
that
Okay.
stuns the guest a little bit. Let's start out with, so we always start with new and goods. So
Little positive
somehow,
psychology.
since somehow you turned it over to me, or at least I stole it from you, I'm going to ask you, what's new and good, Jared Miller?
So I passed the ball to you, and you just pass it right back.
I think so. I stole the ball and then passed it back.
Okay,
I'll tell you
alright.
what's new and good in my life if you want, but you can tell me first.
What's new and good
Your
in my
new
life?
and good is way more important than mine.
So, the past week, Mandy and I are in the process of attempting to have a child.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going through the Utah Fertility Clinic. We're going to give them a little free sponsorship here.
You're also going to give them a bunch of your money.
Yeah, like 20 G's.
And I'm not
Exactly cheap.
I'm not trying to jam on Utah Fertility Clinic. This stuff is expensive if you're going through fertility treatments.
But the new and the good
Okay.
is hopefully by this time next year,
There'll
I'll
be
be
a
a daddy.
little Miller.
there'll be a little Miller. That's a scary thought,
The
huh?
world needs some more little Millers.
Yeah, so that's my
Okay.
new and good, Doc.
I would love to see you raising a kid. I think that'll be fun to watch.
How about you, buddy? What's new and good in your world?
Well, I drove down here. I got off to a much later start than I intended to, and so I was driving kind of fast
Weird.
and got down here, but I made it okay, and everything's good. I've had this sort of as a new and good before, but this one's a tiny bit different. It's the time of year where there's a lot of fundraising golf tournaments, which everyone knows already. My favorite hobby is golf. So we had the Wasatch Recovery hosts a fundraising tournament, and it was yesterday. And we played terrible. We lost by a bunch.
That's not important, though. Did they raise some funds?
They raised a bunch of money. Yeah, and they do a really nice tournament. And
Nice.
so they had a bunch of nice sponsors and everything. But I'll give you the bad before the good, and then I'll give you the good. It's at Thanksgiving Point, and there's this really weird area where there's a bike trail that goes through the golf course. And the bike trail is kind of coming down a hill, and then it turns a corner, and the cart path cuts across the bike trail right there.
Okay.
There's a stop sign for the cart path. I'm driving.
And totally ignoring the stop sign.
Nope, I stopped.
Okay.
I looked, I didn't see anybody. I pull out. This guy comes screaming down around this corner on his bike, and I hit him, and he did a full flip, landed on his head, finished on his back, jacked up his bike. It was terrible.
Did you jump out of the cart and yell, "It's okay, I'm a doctor"? Or were you like worried about
Well,
lawsuits?
You don't actually announce that initially because they start seeing dollar signs. And the truth is, I'm the brokest doctor on the planet. But I did, and we stopped and we helped him out. He was a PA, turns out. He was fine. It's going to cost me a little for the bike. I jacked up his bike a little bit, but So we go on to the golf tournament. I lost my phone on the course, so it's a terrible tournament. Thing's over. We finished third to last. At the end of all these tournaments, they have these prize giveaways and they have raffles and stuff. I got drawn for a 72-inch TV.
You got a 72-inch TV.
Yes, I did.
Nice.
And so that's my new and good today is everything went crappy for a while, and then all of a sudden I got a 72-inch TV at the end of the tournament.
Hey, man, I'll take it.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was good. And it was free. Like the tournament didn't even cost me anything because the Sobriety Foundation sponsored our entry, so that was cool.
Love that.
Yeah.
Shout out to Susan
That's
Peterson.
my stuff.
Well, let's get Cassie. Cassie and then Max.
Okay. I like it.
Cassie.
What's new and good in your life?
New and good in my life. New, we just got done remodeling our home. So we just moved into that 2 nights ago.
Sweet.
So that's really exciting.
Where do you live?
In Hurricane now.
Okay.
Did you
Yeah.
hit any pedestrians on the to
stop.
and from?
No.
We're not. This is not going to be the theme of this podcast. Okay. You stop.
No.
I did.
No,
To
I
and from
haven't.
Home Depot. Did you hit anybody on
No,
bikes?
no. I
Okay.
probably wanted to, but no, I didn't.
No, it's not fun. Actually, I was shaking for about 3 holes, so don't do that.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing, though. So
Yeah.
doing some remodeling.
Yeah. So it's all done. We're moved in.
Nice.
And, good. I woke up another day sober.
Yeah.
Any
love
day I
that.
wake up on my pillow sober is a good day.
That's
So-
good. Listen,
Yeah.
all the details that you and I just talked about are irrelevant if that doesn't happen, right?
Very
Amen.
true.
If you don't wake up clean and sober the next day, then whatever happened the day before is not relevant anymore. And
Yeah.
that whatever happens that day won't be relevant either.
Well said.
I thought like that. That's such such an important outlook.
All right, podcast over. Great job.
Yeah,
message,
we're
message
done.
spread.
Yeah.
We're good.
She
We can
woke
wrap
up
it
clean and sober today. She got another day under her belt.
That is the journey
Congrats.
of Cassie.
Max, what are you doing over there? What's new and good in the life of Max Christensen III?
Yes, sir. Still grinding on football, still doing everything like that, right? Like the summer hasn't really changed for me. Still hosting my sports radio talk show.
How's the
So
talk show going?
It's going great, man.
Good.
It's been really, really fun talking about all the different sports. Like I said, we don't just focus on football and basketball. It's a very wide variety of sports what we talk about on my show. So it's been really fun, great experience for me. Still doing all that. The only thing that's doing good for me is, this year we know that this is the first year ever that we've celebrated Juneteenth as a national holiday.
Yes.
And St. George City put on a Juneteenth event, and they asked me to come speak at it.
Whoa.
And so I went and gave a 20-minute speech on the history of Juneteenth, kind of what it means to me, and just being able to educate people and have open conversations about, not just me spewing rhetoric or talking about, Juneteenth and what it means to me, but also getting to hear from the people who live in St. George. And because not a lot of people in general around the country have much knowledge about what Juneteenth is.
Sure.
And so the fact that I was able to share that, have open dialogue, really, really get feedback from the St. George community was a great, great experience for me.
I would say particularly in Utah, we have maybe less idea what Juneteenth is than, back east where there's a higher population of African Americans, down south where there's a higher population. But it's cool that we're celebrating that.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. And then, currently, there's only 9 states that even hold it as a state holiday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so just to have it as a national holiday, finally, have it recognized and just being able to remember it. And for me, it's not about remembering all the bad, but really looking how far we've come.
Yep.
Right. Like, I mean,
Lovely.
we're here in 2022, and I'm able to sit here, run the board for your guys' show. Like, that's partly because Juneteenth happened. So I'm very grateful for that. And I just love to look back and see the progress that we've made in this great country that we live in.
So good. So that's a great message. too.
MC3, man. Way to hit it out of the park with the new and
He
good.
did knock
dude.
that out of the park.
You crushed that.
And I
Appreciate
think
it.
I think that's an outlook. Like we spend a lot of time looking back in this country at all the evils that have happened in this country. We're tearing down statues of people that,
Yeah.
right? Forget that. We can't do anything about that right now.
Yep.
Let's move forward. Let's look forward. Let's do better.
Exactly.
That's a great message you just brought to us.
Appreciate it.
Which is kind of a
MC3.
recovery principle, looking for similarities instead of differences.
Yes.
I feel like
and what we try to do on this podcast, right?
be able
The
to relate.
concept is we try not to, and I get caught up in the details for sure. We try not to spend way too much emphasis on looking at the bad stuff that happened in your past. And the podcast really wants to be about what does today look like and what does your future look like.
Living in the solution.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Cassie.
That's
Yeah.
why we asked Max the question. That was a good answer from him.
That's great.
Love Max on the podcast.
You got all the nervous jitters out?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Sellers, get at her.
Who are you?
Cassi Barreras.
Okay, Cassi Barreras. Tell us a little bit about Cassi Barreras. Like right now, who are you? Family? A little bit about your family, maybe? living situation, what you do for work, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So today I actually hold a job. I've had my job almost 3 years.
Whoa.
Love it.
What's your job?
I'm a waitress at Bishop's in Washington.
Okay. I'm not from down here, so I don't know Bishop's, but
Oh, it's
I see your
delicious.
shirt.
Yeah.
It's
love
got
Bishop's.
Bishop's
Yeah.
on it. So
You know, and my work family has become my family
Oh, yeah,
and a
that's nice.
huge part of my journey and my sobriety.
that's nice.
Yeah. So I love,
So you include them in your journey. A little
absolutely.
bit. They all know
Yeah.
your story
Yeah.
and your stuff. That's
Mhm.
nice.
Which
That-
family is important to you? Because we're going to get to your story, and I know family's important to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've
Very.
been able to find kind of a surrogate family through Bishop's.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
And I've just been able to go in and share with them on a daily where I'm at, the times I've been struggling. You know, I went in there and yeah, they've just supported me and loved me through all of it.
Good to have.
Yeah.
What kind of food does Bishop serve?
It's a mom and pop shop.
Okay.
So
kinda
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
home style cooking
Yep.
kind
Home
of
style
stuff.
cooking.
I love
Yeah.
that. That
Just some
sounds
good
great.
soul
Nice
food.
plug.
Yeah.
Nice plug to Bishop's.
Yeah.
Let's all go. All our listeners that are down here in the southern part of Utah should go to Bishop's and check it out.
You know what's crazy, guys? Is that I went to Bishop for the very first time on Wednesday, so I just want to sit here and personally vouch. Great food,
Okay.
awesome
Nice.
food. So go check it out.
You're going to go back to work. If anybody listened, you're going to be a hero here because they got free advertising. And Max is the new
Nice.
spokesman. Cool.
So
All
yeah,
right,
family.
okay.
You know, my kids and my grandkids are in my life. I've got
You can't have grandkids.
I
you
do.
stop that bullcrap.
4
right
and
now.
2,
What?
and it's amazing.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's really great.
Cool.
So
Have a-
grandkids are the best, aren't they?
Oh, they are
The best.
the best. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's a whole other love.
Because you don't even like. To me, I have a number of grandkids, but to me, it's like you don't have to care so much about the naughty stuff they do.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah. You just get to love them.
Yeah,
It's great.
Exactly.
Love them
Yeah.
and send them back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's great.
Who are your grandkids? Tell me names if you want to. If you don't, that's fine. I
Weslyn.
shouldn't. Okay.
Is 4.
Okay.
She's my granddaughter.
Okay.
And Crew is 2, and he's just the little cowboy.
He's 2.
Yeah,
Such
and
a
he
cute
is
name. Crew, that's a cute
Yeah.
name.
Westland and Crew.
Weslyn and Crew.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Super cool.
yeah.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2 here on Earth and 1 that's in heaven.
Okay. Somebody's waiting for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to share that?
Yeah,
You want to share that? How come one's in heaven?
yeah. September 4th of 2020.
Okay. Almost 2 years ago now.
It's almost been 2 years. Lexi was my middle child.
Uh-huh.
She was killed in a car accident,
Oh.
a head-on collision. I was almost to my 1 year in sobriety when I got that phone call.
Oh. I don't know. I can't imagine the phone call.
Yeah, so still, when you ask how many kids I have, that's a question that still just,
I almost made fun of you because I said how many kids you have, and you had you had to contemplate it for a second, and I'm like, you don't know how many kids you have? Now I understand
Yeah.
why you
it
contemplated
still
that for
just
a second.
takes my
You have-
breath away.
You have 3 kids.
Absolutely.
If we believe that there is a heaven, you have 3 kids,
And I love that
and
answer.
I think we all believe that.
Yeah,
I think most people believe that. I guess not everybody, but
yeah,
we all believe there's somebody waiting for you in heaven.
yep.
Tell me her name again.
Lexi,
Lexi.
yep,
Okay. It's almost been 2 years.
almost.
So you were sober at the time,
hmm
and did you maintain sobriety through that?
I did.
Oh my gosh, I don't know how you do that. I do
Yeah.
know how you do that.
Let's
You do
ask
it-
her how
that's-
she
you
did
do,
it.
there you go.
Yeah.
That's what we do on this podcast. Jared, ask her how she did it,
That had to
because
be
I hadn't
very
thought of that.
that had to be very, very hard.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
How
know,
does somebody with a year under their belt
yeah.
that has devastating news like that pull themselves together and stay
Um,
clean, Cassie?
you know, I can tell you that the most incredible thing was the conversations me and Lexi had leading up to that. And she had called me 7 days before this. And she said, Mom, you talk about reservations and things that might take you back out. Is there anything you think you couldn't get through? And I said, I don't know if I could get through it sober if I lost one of you kids.
Oh,
And she said, Mom, I'm not just saying this for me, but I speak for my brother and my sister too. We have our mom back. Please don't ever pick up a drink or a drug again. And I sat there in that moment and I said, that's a promise I can make, but not for you, not for your brother and sister, but for me, because I deserve to have this life. And in return, you guys get a better mom that you deserve. and the grandkids get a grandma. And then she texted to me. And I said, I can promise. So when I got the phone call, that's all I could hear was that conversation. And then I looked at my phone. And instantly when I got the phone call, I was in sober living, and I told the girls, I need you to call my sponsor. And I instantly had women surrounding me that were, in recovery. And within an hour, I knew I had to go to a meeting. And so I went to the candlelight meeting and shared exactly where I was at. And the fellowship drugged me through when I didn't know how. The days I called and said, I don't know how to do this because I didn't know how to do it. They drugged me through, and they loved me through it. And that's how I did it.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
The takeaway I got from that, Cassie, is just the importance of having a support system.
Absolutely.
I think that's a huge cornerstone in recovery, especially early recovery, is had you not had that support system to lean on, who knows?
Right.
Maybe you could have white knuckled it for long enough.
Yeah.
But
But for sure less likely.
Yeah.
Less likely.
Yeah, I don't think I could have.
I don't think anyone would have blamed you at that point either.
Yeah.
That's hard stuff. Well, we brought the podcast right down. Let's move backwards.
You got Doc Sellers getting emotional over here.
Yeah, sorry. I can't imagine losing a kid.
Yeah.
Like, that's just tough. And it makes me cry, but I don't know how you could do that.
The blessing is that I got sober before it happened, and I've been able to stay sober. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that's why I got sober.
This whole podcast so far has been about perception and outlook on things, right? About how you perceive things and how you sort of turn those negative things into positives. Because she just finished a story about how her child died, and then she said the blessing is.
Crazy, right?
There's a blessing to your child dying? No, there's not. But yes, she comes up with something on the other side that can be used as a positive, which is a great example for everybody out there and me.
Absolutely. For people to be able to relate, you obviously have mentioned that in recovery means you had an addiction.
Right.
And we don't want to spend a ton of time in active addiction because, again, like Dr. Sellers mentioned, and I totally back up and totally love, we want to make sure that we're living in the solution. But for relatability, what did your addiction basically kind of look like? We got 10 minutes in this first segment.
How'd you get started?
Tell us what that looked like.
So, I was raised by bikers. And, yeah, my whole family's bikers.
I was going to say wolves, but bikers was about the same thing.
Yeah, about the same. So since I was little, drugs and alcohol were just part of it. I didn't even know that there was real people out there that didn't do those things. Started drinking at a really young age. I think the first time I ever put a substance in my body was about 10 years old.
Just because it was so normalized.
Yeah, it was just part of life.
What you did. Okay.
Like I said, I didn't even know that there was anything other than that.
Right.
Mom was a single mom after her parents got divorced. And I just started using more. It started with pot. It started with a lot of alcohol. And then I got in a car accident at 17, and doctor prescribed me pain pills and instantly was addicted. And for a long time, I didn't know I was addicted to them and started with those. And
was the car accident at 17, did being impaired have anything to do with that?
No.
Oh, okay. So
No,
you were
at that
sober as a
time.
jaybird when you got in a car
Right.
accident.
So I got pregnant with my first child at 14. My son was pregnant with Lexi at 15.
That's a little bit young, by the way.
Just a tad bit.
14, I thought girls had cooties.
Yeah.
It's all making sense, though, when you had the
Right.
shocked look in your face that she was a grandma sitting here with us today.
Well, now that makes sense.
Yeah, so now it adds up,
That's how
right?
she's 27 and has grandkids. That's what it is right there.
So I had 2 kids before I was 16. And I just started, was married before I was 16. So we had 2 kids, married, went to high school, and was married to an older man at the time. So at 17, I was just being a mom. And when I got in the car accident is when I got prescribed the pain pills. And it just took off from there.
Tell us so I get how you got pain pills. How'd you continue pain pills? At some point, that excuse of a car accident has to wear
Right.
off for a doctor.
Yeah. So then I just started, every excuse you could come up with. My back, this was hurting, went to pain management,
So
it
you
was
kept getting them from doctors.
kept getting them from doctors.
Okay.
Yep.
And listen, back then it wasn't as regulated as it is today.
Well, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Like I just had surgery last week to try to have a child, and I mean, he gave me like 5 Percocets. I mean, that's it, right? Surgery.
Right.
I mean, so today there are way more, regulated, way more there's way more oversight. Is
Sure.
what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Back then, it was like you walk into your doctor's office and say, "I'm in pain," and they're like, "What do you want?"
Yeah.
You know what you used to call 5 Percocets?
What's that?
A morning snack.
Yo, for
Right?
sure.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what you used to use to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've just made fun of using drugs, and I didn't mean to do that. But 5 Percocet is quite tightly
Oh, yeah.
regulated after a surgery. That's
Sure.
pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Sure, but back in the
Yeah.
day when you were going through this, I'm sure it wasn't
Right.
quite that regular.
Well, and we've talked about this on the podcast. I don't want to take too much time on my stuff, but I remember people in med school telling us we're not treating pain aggressively enough, and we were taught we need to give out more opiates.
right.
Right.
And that has totally shifted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's keep going.
So then I, started taking the pain pills, taking them more, getting more, needed more, it just spirals out of control, and got addicted to Adderall at the same time.
Okay.
Um,
When did you first discover in your brain that you thought pain pills might be a problem for you?
so I had actually ran out of my prescription, and my ex-husband had come over, and I was so sick. I was in the bathtub, and I was so sick. I was just shaking. I was puking.
Acute withdrawals.
And he had said, "Have you taken your medication?" And it was a holiday weekend. And I said, "No, I haven't. I'm waiting until Monday." And he said, "You need your medication." So at that time, he had called his dad that took pain pills and said, "I need you to bring up some pain medication. I need to give this to her." And he gave me the pain pills. And instantly I felt that
Wave
I'm
of
okay.
relief. Yep.
that wave of relief. And that is the moment where I knew
That
I
a
was
problem.
addicted.
Yep.
And I had a huge problem.
The physical dependency had
Yep.
set in. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So
Yeah.
So you get addicted to Adderall
So I get addicted to Adderall
and pain pills at the same
and
time.
pain pills.
Okay.
Yeah. And
It's a good combo. One will
Yeah.
help you sleep and one will wake you up.
terrible
And-
combo.
and
I
then
meant terrible.
yeah,
Sorry.
let's see, it was
I need to be careful
probably
with my language.
I was, 10, 15 years into that, and then I got introduced to methamphetamine. And
Okay.
that took me on a whole nother, I quit the pain pills and Adderall. So I was like, "Oh, I'm fine."
Sure.
Quit taking all that. Now I'm doing meth and alcohol
I'm kind of confused though. 10 to 15 years from when? From 14?
from 17.
From
18.
the, car,
17.
from the car accident.
Right.
Car accident.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So I started on meth and alcohol and just couldn't stop.
Continued on meth and
Continue.
alcohol.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that's when I lost everything.
What does that mean? What did that look like?
Lost my job, lost my home. Kids went to live with their dad, and I became homeless. I took off from Utah, went to Washington State, lived on the streets, and, I was okay with it. For the first time in my life, I wasn't a mom. I didn't have any responsibility, and I thought it was great.
Living the high life.
Yep, living the high life, absolutely high life.
And you look back on that now and you wouldn't trade this for that
Oh, at
for all the money in the world.
No,
Yeah.
no.
But I can see how it is mildly appealing at some
Right.
points, right? I
Yeah.
don't have responsibilities. I don't have bills. I
Yeah.
don't have.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest.
I'll
She had
just live out
responsibility at age 14, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a crazy time. So
Started with heavy responsibilities
Yeah.
early.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, lost the kids. Kids wouldn't talk to me anymore. Didn't want nothing to do with me. Didn't care if I died in a ditch.
Mm.
And that was actually words out of their mouth.
Was that painful to you?
Absolutely.
And you medicate that away?
I just kept using.
yeah.
Well, sure.
To
our
numb it more
feelings
and
are-
more.
Yeah, our feelings are shut off when we're running and gunning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Got about 30 seconds left in this.
out in Washington,
Mm-hmm.
at what point did you decide I need help?
I actually still didn't think I needed help. Was out running and gunning, and I had a boyfriend that was using heroin severely, and decided Lexi had called me and said, "Mom, you have a choice. You can come home and be a mom or stay out of our life forever."
Mm,
And so I got on a plane and came back home.
right there. Right there is where we're going to put a pin in it. Thank you guys for checking out episode 85. Cassie, you're a rock star. We'll get back to her story after this 30-second break from our sponsor.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is part 2 of episode number 85 of We Do Recover with Jared Miller. And we are talking to our guest, Cassi Barreras. She's got a lovely story going so far. But before we get back into that, I want to mention that part 2 is sponsored by the Hilton Garden Inn. You know, it's always sunny and bright at the Hilton Garden Inn. Hilton Garden Inn is...
Especially this time of year, man. It's super sunny at the Hilton Garden
and
this time of
warm,
year, right?
and warm, right? But
It's
the pool,
hot down
but
here.
the pool will cool you off. So if you guys are ever traveling through southern Utah, need a place to stay, give them a quick Google search. Just type in Hilton Garden Inn and look them up. And they have great amenities. They take really good care of their guests, and they've been really good to us. So give them a shot at your business.
I actually contemplated doing this in a tank top today
Really,
because it's
so
hot. It's hot outside, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's St. George in the summer, baby.
Yeah.
St. George, Utah.
Last time I was down here, you remember I texted you, but I went to play some golf in the afternoon after the podcast was over, or maybe the next day. I can't remember what. It was 106 or 105 that day, and I went out and I'm like, come on, I can do that. So I went out and teed off. It was 104 when I teed off, and I got through 7 holes and I just couldn't do it anymore. It's hot.
Yeah, I couldn't finish those
hot.
last 2.
Yeah. Okay. So back to Cassie's story. So Cassi, if you were listening to part 1, Cassie's daughter has just told her Cassie's out running a gun, living on the streets of Spokane, and her daughter says, "Mom, you can come home and be in our lives, or you can be out of our lives forever."
Can we back up just 2 seconds for a
Do
minute?
whatever you want.
In my mind, I kept thinking, why Spokane, Washington? Like, did you just throw a dart at a map, or like, how did you end up in Spokane? There's got to be a story
Thanks for asking.
behind that.
Yeah, there is. So I went with a friend in active addiction.
So
So-called
air quotes?
friend.
Are we calling? We're doing air
Yeah,
quotes for friend. Okay,
A friend at
You
that
know.
point is anyone that will help you get drugs or
Exactly.
alcohol.
I know the type.
You know,
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
So we had went to Washington where his family lived and went up there and were visiting, and he decided to leave me up there. So I just stayed there and kept using more and more.
Hold on. So you mean it wasn't true love and it didn't work out?
Yeah, absolutely not.
Like your brains
It was
were
all about the
on
drugs.
mind-altering
Yeah.
substances. Weird how that
Are you
works.
trying to
right?
tell us
Yeah.
you don't make your best decisions on
Yeah.
on meth?
You don't make the
Nah.
best decisions
Okay.
on meth and alcohol.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a lesson for the listeners.
Yeah.
Apparently, you don't make your best decisions on meth or
No,
alcohol.
you don't.
So
Okay.
so you get a phone call from your daughter.
Yep.
She says either get back in my life or stay out of my
Get
life.
out of my life.
She
Yeah.
says just either be gone completely, because at this point she said it would be easier with you dead.
Mm.
And
That's got to sting a
It
tiny
did.
bit.
And so I thought, okay, I'm going to go home. So I came home to Utah and thought I could stay sober. You know, I was very much that person. I didn't believe in treatment. I didn't understand it, but I heard, like, if you want to quit, you just quit. And that was the mentality I'd had my whole life. Didn't understand it. Didn't understand, what recovery was.
It's a mentality that everyone has until they don't. But I mean, that's the common perception out there. And
Right.
that's why there is such a stigma, as people just look at it and say, well, it's so terrible. Just stop.
Right.
It's just a choice.
Yeah.
Just quit it.
Right.
You'll be fine.
Yeah. So I came home and I thought, okay, I'm going to do this for my kids. And within 2 days I was drinking, but I was like, well, that's not bad
Yeah,
because
drinking's fine.
it's
It's
legal.
legal.
I can go to the liquor store, I can go to
Right.
the gas station and get it.
Socially accepted.
Right.
Commercials everywhere. Yeah,
Right.
it's got to be cool.
But the problem with me is when I picked up alcohol, I didn't like the way it made me feel. I didn't like feeling drunk. So alcohol has always led me to pick up another substance.
Something that makes you feel a way you
Right.
do like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I went and was right back on meth within a couple weeks of being home.
Not so easy to quit, right?
Yeah.
Kind of another point that we've pointed out 100 times, but your brain, everyone's brain likes different substances a little bit, and you had one that you really enjoyed at this point in your life, which was
Right.
meth. Alcohol wasn't it,
Right.
but even though alcohol's not it, alcohol gives you a higher chance of going back to your drug that your brain likes. And everyone will say the same thing. Oh, I'm not a, the opiate addict will say, well, I'm not really an alcoholic, or I'm not a meth head, or I'm not a pot. And so they'll do that, and then next thing they know, they're right back at
Yeah.
it. So there's an example of that.
Yeah. So I decided, kids were mad again. And then I went running and gunning here again. Was down in Mesquite for,
Not even fair, right? It's just alcohol.
Yeah.
It's legal. Why?
yeah.
I quit the meth. My kids are mad at me still.
Well, no, she
Yeah.
repicked the
Right.
meth back up.
Yep.
Well,
Repicked the meth
okay.
back up.
They didn't get mad before the meth?
But they were mad even when I was drinking.
Yeah. That's what
Fighting
I'm
with
saying.
the
Like,
kids,
yeah, that's not fair.
And I was like, well, I'm here. I'm sober.
Yeah.
I'm not using
meth.
meth. What's your problem?
Yeah.
So I went and was running and gunning again in Mesquite, was there for months at a time, driving back and forth from Vegas to California, picking up drugs, guns, you name it. I was doing all of it.
Just a chaotic, crazy life.
Just chaotic, crazy, thought it was fine
What are you picking up guns for? Is this for bikers?
to sell.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. And thought it was fine living in my van and doing all the things. And I had hooked up with somebody, had just gotten out of prison, and he was running from AP&P. And
Another brilliant choice.
yeah, brilliant idea,
Yeah.
and we were going to end up killing each other or somebody else. It took us 19 hours to get back from Mesquite to St. George, oncoming traffic.
For people that don't know, that's about a 45-minute drive.
Yeah.
normally,
Yes.
To an hour, 45
Yeah.
minutes to an hour. Took
Yeah.
you 19.
Yeah. There was
19 hours.
There was actually 10 911 calls that had went in because, we'd stop on the freeway. He dragged me out of the car. He dragged me in, just chaotic. The windshield shattered at this point. But the problem is you're in between Utah, Nevada, Arizona. So every
Right.
time you go, different officers couldn't
different
get to
cops
it.
can't
Yeah.
get at you.
Right.
Yeah. There's in like a 5-minute, 10-minute range there. You're in.
Right.
You're in Utah. You're in Arizona. You're in Nevada.
Yeah. So that
Yeah.
was in August. And at that time, we made it back to St. George. And I just knew without a shadow of a doubt we were going to die. AP&P ended up picking him up, stopped us, picked him up. And on that day, I didn't pick up meth anymore. But the problem is the meth was a blocker for my alcohol. So I couldn't physically quit drinking. I just kept drinking. And then I realized how much I was drinking.
Mm.
And at that moment, I'd went in, I saw this Lionsgate Recovery on the boulevard.
Mm.
And I walked in and I just said, I need help. Don't know why I'm here. I was, like I said before, I was very much that person that didn't believe in it. But I walked in and it took them a month to get me a bed. And they said, keep drinking until we get you in. And
Obviously, because they wanted you to
So-
not detox.
right.
Yeah. So
I just want the listeners to understand they weren't like co-signing. They're not
right.
encouraging.
right.
But they don't want her. Two of the things you can die from when you detox, Doc, this is your field.
I'm okay. You're doing great.
So benzodiazepines and alcohol can kill you if you do not come off them correctly.
So
right?
I have in my experience witnessed one person have a seizure that died from the seizure, and he was an alcohol guy who had lied to us about how much alcohol he had used. That actually was, oh no, never mind. I'm not going to talk about that. But that was
But
something that
that's why.
happened in my experience. I've actually witnessed 3 seizures, but I've been treating people who have had dozens and dozens of seizures from withdrawing from alcohol and or benzodiazepines.
What I'm interested in, though, Cassie, is so you've already kind of started taking the steps to surrender.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're looking for help, you're looking for avenues. In that month before you actually started treatment, were you trying to slow down? Were you trying to quit on your own? Or did you just continue to go hard?
I was absolutely trying to quit. I had called my baby sister one day and I said, I'm not going to drink today. And she said, sister, you have to. And she came over. I was staying with a friend, a safe place, doesn't use, doesn't drink. And she came in and I was so sick. And she said, sister, you have to drink today. And I was just crying to her. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to live this way anymore. I'm tired. And she was going to nursing school and she said, if you don't drink, you're probably going to die. So she went and got me a bottle and I would just take a shot and I would cry and I would puke, and I would take a shot and I would cry and I would puke. It was just miserable.
And see, this is the stuff that
This is
people
the
don't see,
glamour life
right?
right here.
Yeah, like we try to glamorize, we try to, you know what I mean? People think of drugs as just this big party. This is the kind of stuff, this is reality. This is where
Right.
it ends up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So you eventually got into treatment. I'm trying to fast
did.
forward us so we can get into life and recovery today, because I
So-
know that you're a powerhouse.
So yeah, I went to detox and walked into Lionsgate, and I walked in and I was like, I don't know what all this is. I didn't know anything about recovery. I didn't know anything about meetings. I didn't,
So super overwhelming.
super overwhelming, but I was willing to do something different, and walked in, and that's where it began for me. Started going to meetings, and I still didn't understand it. We went to all these different meetings. There was all these people, and I was like, but they don't have my life. They don't have this life.
I'm different than they are.
I'm different. They don't have my story. And I got a suggestion to go in and listen for the similarities, not the differences.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
Interesting.
It's a game
Interesting.
changer.
Turns out everyone in that meeting was there for the same exact reason,
Right.
regardless of the difference.
So I can tell you, I had to go into meetings for a really long time, and I would look up and keep my eyes closed because then I could hear. Because what I was seeing all these happy people smiling, and I was in this miserable, I didn't know how to live life. I didn't know how to live life without a substance, had lost my kids, had lost everything. And you go into these meetings and they're sharing all this great stuff, and I just couldn't relate.
I'm glad you said that, because I feel like the way media portrays fellowship meetings is like there's a coffee pot, everybody's super sad, somebody stands up and does the lingo, and it's not. A lot of times it's upbeat, it's
Yeah.
happy, it's
Yeah.
people getting their lives back.
Yeah. And I seen people hugging and, all this stuff, and I was
What are
just
these
like,
people doing?
what are they doing?
Where's
I
the
ju-
drugs?
Yeah.
Where's the alcohol?
Yeah,
There's
you
got to
know,
be some here.
And that's really what I thought. I thought they've got to be drinking or doing something on the weekends,
If they're happy, they're on
Yeah,
meth, right?
right.
For sure.
So I went into meetings and I just started listening for the similarities. And still to this day, if I'm in that place, I'll just look up and just listen, because then I can listen, because I don't see, these people. I just hear my story and then I can relate. And it helped me tremendously.
I love that. You eliminated one sense to amplify another.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So I really just went into meetings, everybody said, get a sponsor. And I was like, yeah, right. What's another woman going to do for me?
I don't need a sponsor.
I don't need a sponsor, but I was willing to do. Actually, Jared had said it to me in treatment, and I had never heard it before. He said, you only have to change one thing. And I said, and I'm standing there and I'm like, okay, tell me that one thing. And I'll never forget when he said, that one thing is everything. And it was one of those aha moments.
Punch him in the face next
You know,
time.
and I have it written in my journal from early recovery, and it really was true. And so I went out from, Lionsgate, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do everything different. And so that's what I did. I went and got a sponsor, and I actually did the steps just to prove to my counselor that it wasn't going to work.
Sure.
Sure.
I was like,
just
this shit,
oppositional
it's
defiance.
not going to work. Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to work the steps because I know I'll be able to prove to them that that's not
Yeah.
for me.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you work the steps then. Okay.
Yeah. So I, went in and wow, what an amazing experience it truly was. And having a sponsor, the greatest gift is when my life was on fire, and my life has been a few times in my sobriety, losing my child. 6 months after that, we found out my mom had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Just buried my mom, so in my 2 years of my sobriety, I buried my child and my mother. But the greatest gift is that I've been able to show up sober. I've been able to do it with no mind-altering substance in my body. And having a sponsor and group of people that I can reach out to and let you know exactly where I'm at, has been incredible. My sponsor knows when I haven't had enough sleep. She knows when I haven't drank enough water. She just knows. She lights me up. She keeps me in it.
You know what I find cool is the ripple effect. Like, you never truly know the full extent of the ripple effect. Cassi did the work, and so almost 3 years ago, I worked at Lionsgate as a tech, and I've kind of worked my way up in the field of addiction and recovery. But just something simple that you share with somebody that can help change them. Now, Cassie's sitting here 3 years later. She's experienced the death of one of her children, the death of her mom, and she knows how to walk through those experiences and stay sober, stay clean, right? So now when other people who are going through a hard time go through those experiences and they need somebody, she hopefully can be there to help them. I mean, just the ripple effect in my mind, it's crazy.
Sure.
Right?
This part that has touched me and impressed me the most is the fact that she got clean and sober and her daughter got to see that. Right? So your daughter dies a tragic death but is proud of her mom.
Right.
That's the coolest gift right there.
You got her.
That's the coolest gift. It really is.
Yeah.
And I got in a place, I want to share that a few weeks ago, I went into my job and I was just, going through life, and it's crazy how life just goes on without him, And here I am living this beautiful life in sobriety. I have a great relationship with my kids. I have an amazing man in my life. He has his recovery. I have my recovery. And we just built this beautiful home together. And I got in this place where I wonder if Lexi's proud or if she's mad. Like, is she mad that I'm just living this happy, healthy life? And I was struggling, last week. And I reached out and I told people at work, and I reached out to my sponsor and people in recovery and said, I just don't know how to do this right now. And it's crazy how all of a sudden something will come into your life. And because I'm very active in recovery, my phone rings and it's women that are the age of my daughter, and say, hey, this is what I'm going through. And even though I don't have my little girl, I have other women that are her age that I get to be an example to, and I get to walk through things. And, I always say, even the times that I've wanted to use and pick up, I can tell you, going through all this, there was days I just wanted to sleep. And I know a substance will help me sleep.
Sure.
But I've never woke up the next day regretting waking up sober. If I just wake up on my pillow sober and get to my pillow sober, that's my goal every day. And sometimes that meant going to bed at noon because I was in a really bad spot. But I always let people know where I'm at.
The pillow thing is something I use all the time. I always tell patients all you have to do is go to bed tonight and lay your head on the pillow and don't drink or drug between now and then. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do anything other than that. And so it's interesting.
I can also relate to the feeling of confusion around like, okay, my life's great, things are good. Does this mean that I love my daughter less because I'm not still mourning?
Right.
Does this mean that, somehow, but in my story, grief and loss is a big part. And one thing that I constantly have to remind myself is the amount of time I grieve isn't equivalent to the amount of love I have for that person.
Right.
Whether I grieve for a week or whether I grieve for 10 years, it's never going to equate to the amount of love that I have for that individual.
Right.
And when we think about it, would those people want us to be sad? Would they want
Not
us
even
to?
a little bit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Do you feel any degree of guilt over the fact that now you have this beautiful life and you have this beautiful home and your daughter didn't get to be in that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where I was stuck last week. I was stuck in that morbid reflection, and just thinking,
What brings you out of that? How'd you get out of that? Or are you out of that?
how I get out of it is getting out of self,
Okay.
helping others,
Okay. Beautiful.
and sharing with people where I'm at, being honest with people. It might not make sense, but if it's in my head and I don't share about it, my counselor would always say our disease keeps inflating. And until I deflate my disease and let somebody know where I'm at, nobody can help. And, the coolest thing was that day when I was really struggling, my daughter-in-law that I have a great relationship with, she sent me a picture of a sunset. And she said, this sunset reminds me of Lexi. Her and Lexi were best friends. And I said, wow, that's beautiful. And she said, man, I just miss her. And her exact words to me were, isn't it crazy how life just goes on without them? And I just started crying, and I said, that's so awesome that you're saying this to me right now, because I've been in that place. I'm angry at myself that I wasted so much time from my children. We always think that tomorrow will come. Well, some days it doesn't. And now I'm the mom and the grandma and the woman that I've always intended to be. But my kids didn't get to fully, Lexi didn't get to fully experience that.
But she is experiencing that.
I was going to say, can you, I don't know your belief system, but she's got a pretty nice home right now.
She does.
She's living in a really nice house.
That she does.
Like, it's pretty lovely
Yeah.
where she's at. She's not mad that she's not at your house, which
Yeah.
is lovely, but
Yeah.
she's in a great place.
It is
If
true.
that's your belief system and it is mine, like, this is this whole thing is temporary. That thing is forever.
And I think watching my other two kids, my son, he actually called me last week and said, hey, Mom, you want to come babysit Crew? I went down there to Arizona. I'm allowed in his house by myself. I'm allowed to watch my grandchildren by myself. And that helps me realize, my little 17-year-old, she's going to college now. She's in college courses. And she says, Mom, I'm so proud of you. My daughter-in-law says, Lexi is so proud of you. So having that and keeping my family tight and just having those conversations really takes me out.
Isn't it cool how? Sorry, go ahead.
You're fine. You started.
Isn't it cool how life just continues to get better?
Absolutely.
Like we were talking a little bit before the podcast, and things are still hard. You still have challenges, but looking back, I'm sure for you from that year one when you were going through that hard time, the person you were then compared to the person you are now, completely different person.
Yeah, completely different person. And the thing I had to realize is I had to be able to sit with myself. I had to be willing to do the work with myself to have any of that growth. If I'm not really willing to do that work, there's no growth, and I couldn't imagine not doing the work on myself and having that experience to keep growing, because today I have a beautiful life, and the colors, there were so many colors that I started seeing when I got sober, but now they're more vibrant.
I'm glad that you said that because recovery is an inside job. It's an internal job. What were you going to say, Doc?
Well, what I was going to say is some of the things that you have mentioned just recently as blessings, you only get to realize what a great blessing they are if you've had those things removed. Right? The rest of the world can take for granted the fact that they get to go visit their grandkids and be in the house by themselves. And so they look at that and they think, oh, that's no big deal. It's a big deal if you've ever had that thing removed.
Absolutely.
And that gets us to a place where we can be grateful for the small things, because a lot of people coast through life and just take the small things for granted. We get to be grateful about those things. And they
Yes.
seem like huge blessings to us if they've been removed from us before.
Yes.
So yeah.
I've just got to say, I've really enjoyed this episode this week. We spent hardly any time in the problem, and we spent the majority of the time in the solution. It's been awesome.
Well, it's a great story though too, right? I mean, there's beauty and there's heartache and there's tragedy and there's sunsets, and it's so great. What a great story.
With the last little time that we have left, though, Cassie, I'd really like for you to speak to the listener who maybe is struggling in early recovery, maybe experienced the death of a loved one. Like, what advice or what words would you have for that individual?
To reach out. It's incredible when you reach out and let somebody know where you're at. Pick up the phone. I know that phone feels like a 900-pound gorilla, but it gets lighter, each time you pick it up. And there's been so many times where I was struggling and I was in that place where I didn't know if I was going to pick up that day or not. And my phone would ring. So it's not just about you. You might be saving somebody else and getting them out of something. Pick up the phone because you're not alone. We don't have to do this alone. That's why it's a we program.
It's a simple step, but it's super difficult for people to do. You just got to do that one thing. You got to do one thing, and that is let somebody else in.
Yep.
Open up and say, I got a problem. I need some help.
Yep.
And have the courage to do that.
Yeah.
Yep. It's
Awesome.
Beautiful episode.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
You're
Appreciate
a freaking
it.
rock star.
That was
I
a
appreciate
great
you guys.
episode.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we wish you all the luck and success in the world because you
Thank you.
deserve that.
Thank
You've
you.
been through the rest of the crap. You deserve beauty
Thank
now. Thanks.
Lexi would be very proud of you. Thanks again for coming on.
Thanks,
Okay,
Jared.
everybody, thanks for listening. We do Recover with Jared Miller, episode number 85. We'll be back next week.
We'll see you then.
Say goodbye, Jared.
We'll see you guys next week.